Hello everyone, my name is Ryan Cam and welcome back to the AFI project. Today we're going to be taking a look at a Christmas movie. Because this year I need all the happiness I can get. It's a Wonderful Life. It was directed by Frank Capra and starred the legendary James Stewart. And it is undoubtedly one of the best Christmas movies of all time. It tells the story of George Bailey, played by James Stewart. A man who has sacrificed all semblance of a normal life to try his best to help others. However, one night, specifically Christmas Eve, he almost loses everything, and he tries to end it all. But his guardian angel, Clarence, shows him what would happen if he weren't around. Me reading the synopsis probably was not needed. By me saying It's a Wonderful Life, I'm sure you all got visions of hot cocoa, fireplaces, and just generally good memories. Me too. When I watched this movie back, I just felt like I was just in such a good mood. I was in such a holly and jolly mood. Christmas is my favorite time of the year. I love watching Christmas movies, A Christmas Story, Home Alone, Scrooge, and A Christmas Carol. Love them all. But I honestly never watched It's a Wonderful Life until maybe 4 years ago? Yeah, 4 years ago. And I have seen it several times after the fact, and it just gets better the more I watch it. Which is funny, because when this movie first came out, not a lot of people knew what to make of it. Despite it being an RKO production who made Citizen Kane, and it being directed by Frank Capra, a pretty dang good director, and that's a big understatement, and starring James Stewart, it was mixed critically, or it received a mixed reception from critics, and it was a financial disappointment. But in 1974, the best thing that could have ever happened to the movie happened. It went into the public domain. I have studied copyright law. I'm not an expert on it, I don't pretend to be, but I know enough about copyright law to know that when something enters the public domain, it can be the kiss of death. Ask Fritz Lang's Metropolis how being in the public domain was. Because even though now it was bought up by the F.W. Murnau estate, and now we're finally getting actual good prints of it, it was mishandled. But unlike Metropolis, It's a Wonderful Life actually thrived in the public domain, as it gained new life every year on Christmas, thanks to home video and cable TV. And now It's a Wonderful Life is mandatory viewing every single December, and there are worse movies to watch in December, that's for certain. Firstly, let's talk about James Stewart. I have been looking for every opportunity to talk about James Stewart because he is one of my favorite actors. I have seen a lot of the movies he has appeared in, and he is just wonderful. Pun fully intended. James Stewart often plays roles where he is often the nicest guy on the planet, but if you do push him, he will push back. And if you're good to him, he will treat you like gold, but if you're bad to him, watch out. You can see the frustration on Stewart's face as he plays this character who is just trying to have a life of his own. He wants to travel, he wants to go places, he wants to make a lot of money and be very successful. However, that just doesn't happen. For legitimately good reasons, but that just doesn't happen. I think the most painful scene is that when he is about to leave for his big European tour, when his father's mortgage office is about to be taken over by Old Man Potter, and we'll get to him in a second. But he finally is like, you know what? The vacation can wait. I gotta stay. He routinely puts others before himself. And while he is seen very well in the community, it has not been very well for his self-esteem and his personal life. I don't want to put on a tinfoil hat or anything, but as I was watching It's a Wonderful Life for this review, I was sitting there thinking to myself, this kind of reminds me of A Christmas Carol, but in reverse. Ebenezer Scrooge is a curmudgeon who is money-grubbing and just a penny-pinching old crab. But then he sees the errors of his ways and turns himself around. George Bailey is the opposite of that. He starts out very caring, but by the time of Christmas Eve, he kind of exhibits more of Ebenezer Scrooge's tendencies. He eventually gets back on the right track, but it's still, there are some parallels there. Especially when you consider the ending scene where George Bailey sees what his life might look like if he had never been born. And it ain't a pretty picture. Old Man Potter, played brilliantly by Lionel Barrymore, has basically taken over the town and turned it into Las Vegas pretty much. And Bailey doesn't recognize any of his friends, or they don't recognize him. And his wife doesn't get married and she becomes an old maid. Like, that's just really sad. One thing I've noticed about Frank Capra's movies, well, in the case of this analogy, this movie and Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, which I just finished watching, is the fact that Frank Capra's movies can get really dark. But as I've always believed, you can get about as dark as you want, as long as John Wayne rides off into the sunset, if you will, meaning that the good guy gets the win. And in It's a Wonderful Life, the good guy gets the win. George Bailey sees the error of his ways and says, you know what, I've got a great life after all. I could go on about It's a Wonderful Life all day, but really, it's one of the best Christmas movies ever made. But I think It's a Wonderful Life, it works very well at Christmas, but it can be watched at any time of the year, because the message still rings true, even to this day. But that is all for me, guys. Thank you so much, as always, for watching. Next time on the AFI project, we're going to be taking a look at... Wait. You know what? I forgot to check. What am I reviewing next time? It's Chinatown. And, wait. Chinatown? Oh.